Hello, welcome to part two of Gods and Monsters by E. E. King, read by me, E. E. King. MetaStellar will be serializing this novel once weekly, so keep listening or reading. There are links below if you want to go back to the beginning or missed an episode. And now, part two, Gods and Monsters. Last week, we met the Fates, Morta, Decima, and Nana, who in the 1980s ran a small occult shop in San Francisco, where they weaved lives together that make up this story. We also met the half-human, half-vampire crossbreed, Gabriel, who has the ability to make vampires lose track of time and turn to dust at sunrise. And we met Jasmine, a vampire who met her end in Gabriel's bed as the morning light turned her to ashes. Part 1, Beginnings. River and Gabriel. Quote, light is only meaningful in relation to darkness. We only exist in the zone where black and white crash. Louis Argonne. Chapter 1, Gabriel, Hillsburg, 1980. San Francisco, 1980, Hillsburg, 1961. Circadian rhythms. Gabriel wakes beside Jasmine. She is dust and ash. He is elegance and grace, his skin pale as pearls. Gabriel has murdered 45 so far, more than Jack the Ripper, but fewer than Vietnam, far fewer. Still, impressive considering he's an army of one. No Rambo either, no heavily muscled behemoth. He is slender and lean, a dancer of death to the undead. He's estranged from his family. His father's people are unknown, his mother's people as fair and ruthless as he, but oh, so different. Gabriel was born under a new October moon in the Golden Hills north of San Francisco. He's a mutt. His mother was a vampire. His father died in childbirth, bite marks still bleeding. He'd gone looking for romance and found death, or perhaps death had found him. He'd been seeking perfection, drawn to Gabriel's mother by her unearthly beauty. If only he'd been satisfied with someone more flawed, something more attainable, he might have survived. Nothing is as dangerous as transcendent, nothing so deadly as desire. Vampires rarely give birth. Usually they just bite someone. They aren't alive, so it's impossible for them to create life, although they can create immortality. Gabriel's birth is much more unusual than virgin birth. Granted, human virgin birth is miraculous, but in many species of fish, lizard, insect, and shark, virgin birth is the norm. It's helpful to remember that a miracle is not necessarily good. It is simply unnatural. Some say there's an order to the universe. The earth revolves, turning day to night, summer to fall. Things sprout and die with precision. There's a master clock, perhaps a master clock maker. If so, Gabriel is an unclock maker. He's a crossbreed, a rare twining of DNA. He dropped from his mother cold and awed as ice in the desert. His mother gazing at the small kicking bundle, fist-balled, pale and uncrying. She considered abandoning him, biting him, even leaving him in the vicinity of a church. Instead, she stayed, watching his hungry body twist and squirm. She did not know, would not know until first light, that he'd already poisoned her circadian rhythms. Chapter 2, River, Hillsburg, October 1961. Discovery. 7-year-old River races home from school. Summer vacation's only a week away. His feet dance with the anticipation of so much freedom so near. The fields are already dry, yellow with wild barley. Hairy spikes of seeds top the grass, bushy as the tails of tiny golden foxes. They cling to River's white cotton socks. Rio, River's favorite uncle, knows all about such things. Those seeds are hitching a ride on you, River, Rio had told him. Just like the guys you see with their thumbs out on the highway. Vroom, vroom, River says, pretending he's a truck, pricking up freeloading grains. They hitch rides from animals too, Rio says. It's a great plan for wild animals. They have short fur and foxtails fall off after a brief trip. Doesn't work out as well for pets, though. Their fur can be too long. Sometimes, instead of falling out, the foxtails dig into the animal's body. River shudders, imagining the points burrowing inside his flesh. He bends to pull one of the irritating, needle-sharp barbs out of his socks. At his feet lies a naked body, unscratched, pale and bright as a cold sun. The infant is cradled in the charred arms of a black shape that resembles a human log. River freezes, his heart beats fast and loud. The quiet of the meadow echoing through him like a cold, distant sea is pierced by a long, high wail. It hurts River's ears. He wishes it would stop. Large hands grip his shoulder. He twists round, breath held, heart frozen. Ron Jackson, the town sheriff, stands behind him, solid and strong. River's throat explodes with pain. Only then does he realize that the howling, so painful, so filled with fear, is coming from his own throat. Jackson calls River's mother, Alma. She comes running through the field. She rocks him in her arms, pulling him back from nightmare. There, she coos. I'm here now. There's nothing to be afraid of. Normally, River would have objected. He's too old to be cuddled like a baby, too mature to be embraced in front of grown men. But now he wants only to hide in his mother's arms and forget. Jackson lifts the silent body, his fingers brushing the arm of the charred figure. It crumbles at his touch. Ashes rise into the air, cinders blacken the golden field. Nothing remains except two pointed crystals that capture the sunlight, dividing it into rainbows. Although the baby's obviously a newborn, there's no blood or afterbirth. Sheriff Jackson takes the baby to the nearest orphanage, cradling it in his lap as he drives. Hey, baby, he says softly, everything's all right now. You're safe. The baby stares up at him, unblinking. Even though the day is sticky with heat, Jackson shivers. The baby's eyes have the bottomless chill of an endless winter. The orphanage, run by the Sisters of Perpetual Memory, is in Hillsburg, half an hour north of San Francisco. Though embraced by golden rolling hills and surrounded by ancient gnarled oaks, it's not a cheerful place. All stark wood and white paint, bare of ornament, carpet, or pillows. The order believes the purpose of existence is to contemplate Christ's martyrdom. Continually. The only decorations, if they can be called that, are the large wooden crosses which hang on every wall in every room. The crosses don't bother Gabriel. In fact, the effect, even on full-blooded or bloodless vampires, is vastly overrated. They don't like them, but most can tolerate a cross so long as it is not staked through their heart. Nothing likes being staked through the heart. The baby is christened Gabriel. During the 18 years that Gabriel lives with the sisters, he protests only once. It's on that first day when he's baptized and holy water touches him. The droplet sizzles as it falls, burning a small white scar like a fallen star onto his forehead. It's his only flaw. Doubtless, the priest who baptizes him should have noticed. Doubtless, the nuns gathered round the newly consecrated should have seen. But at the moment of impact, an unexpected storm darkens the sky. Lightning flashes, power surges through the taut wires, the altar is cast into night. Water hisses, the baby screams. The only light is Gabriel's scar, shining like a tiny votive candle out of the shadow. Perhaps this is why the priest, blinded by the sudden darkness, sees the baby as a sign of hope. Possibly this is why the nuns, deafened by thunder, imagine the infant's wail to be the sound of faith rising from an abyss. Chapter 3, River, Hillsburg, 1961, Loss and Longing. River grows up in the sleepy town of Hillsburg, only a few miles west of the orphanage of the Sisters of Perpetual Memory. He'd been a happy, carefree child, hair sandy as a foxtail, eyes the clear blue of a cloudless nature. But after his discovery in the field, everything changes. There are some things that mark you forever, leaving a scar no one can see. River can't forget the quiet white baby lying next to the charred body. It keeps him awake most night. When he sleeps, the image awakes him screaming. His home, which has been happy, changes. Rio disappears the night River finds Gabriel, leaving only emptiness where once was laughter. The tiny greenhouse bursting with life that Rio has filled with orchids. Flowers so alien and exotic, they look like they've dropped from another planet, is empty. On days too hot or nights too cold to venture out, River had sat with Rio in the humid room, watching the moisture gather and the walls weep, listening to the life's histories of orchids, more fantastic than fairy tales. No one talks about Rio's disappearance. Secrets lurk behind closed doors. The house whispers in the night. When River returns home from school, he runs to the greenhouse. Surely Rio must be there. It's not possible that he's really gone. The greenhouse is empty, windows damp, shelves dirty and bare. It smells of decay. The only remnants of light are the fragments of sphagnum moss that litter the floor, disintegrating into dust with the slightest touch. I knew they'd just die anyway, Alma says from behind River. It's better this way, less stench, less cleanup. Rio spent way too much money and time on plants you can't eat and flowers you can't pick. Alma puts a hand on River's shoulder. Here, she says, holding out a plate. Have a cookie, chocolate chip, your favorite. River shakes off her hand and runs into the woods. How can Rio be gone? Rio, so full of life and curiosity. He could tell you about plants and bugs and make them more interesting than any horror story. He could reveal the history behind history, opening doors into the past like a human time machine. Alma called Rio a rolling stone and a heartbreaker. Rivers wonder if this means he had rolled a stone onto someone and crushed their heart, but he can't imagine Rio killing anyone. Rio didn't even like to step on bugs. River feels the ground around him has receded, leaving him stranded and alone. River's father, Joseph, misses Rio, his baby brother, almost as much as River. Rio was the yang to Joseph's yin. Joseph was sturdy and unimaginative. Rio was a breeze, following fancies and desires wherever they blew him. Now Joseph feels off kilter, out of balance, adrift and confused in an isolated country. A week later, Ryo's body, or rather pieces of it, is discovered in a field. Ryo's identifiable only by 2 gold fillings in the treads of his shoes. Joseph begins drinking, trying to numb his soul, to forget and find respite. Each night, he comes home later and later. Go find your father, Alma says, pushing River out the door, even though it's nightfall and he's only 7, even though he's had no supper and is hungry. River doesn't protest. The house smells of blood and fear. It's filled with unspoken words. River's happy to escape. He tracks Joseph to Jay's, the only tavern in town. Soon River is almost as familiar a visitor there as Joseph. It's your boy again, Joe, says the bartender whenever he sees River. Time to go home now. River silently holds out his hand, leading his father home like a stray dog. Some nights, Joseph sings his way home. Other nights, he's maudlin, but more and more often he refuses to leave the bar, drinking steadily and sullenly as a winter rain, looking for respite in oblivion. One night, on his way to the tavern, the moon rises full and bright. Out of the woods rises a howl that tickles the hair on the back of River's neck. Even though he is beneath a street lamp and only a block from home, he feels as lost and hollow as if he's falling into nothingness. He races home, not looking to either side. Crashing into the house, he burrows under his covers. What's wrong? Alma asks. Did you find your father? River doesn't answer. He can't speak. He's shivering as violently as if he has malaria. Alma takes him in her arms. Oh, my poor, poor baby, she cries. My sweet little boy, how could I have sent you out into the night and dark? Let Mama kiss away your fears. But her kisses burn like lies, and the next night she sends him out again. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week. Next week, all Gabriel has to do is drift near a broken object and it works again, good as new. No one seems to notice that the refurbished stereos only play in minor keys, or that the small, curious fingers of children get caught more often than usual in the blades of repaired blenders. Next week on Gods and Monsters. Tune in then. Thank you for listening.